You're listening to the Business Communicators. And now your hosts, Austin Stepp and Thomas Bain.
Welcome to Season 5 of the Business Communicators. My name is Austin Staton, here alongside the co-host, Thomas Bain, on the #1 business communications podcast in the world, and that's a verifiable fact. And Thomas, it's a big week coming up for the movie goers. You've got Oppenheimer coming out, Oppenheimer. You've got the Barbie movie. You've got this collaboration where people are going to go see Oppenheimer and then go see the Barbie movie. That's been going all over TikTok. But before we get into all that,
Mission Impossible, don't forget that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want to say,
follow us on social.
Follow us on social. #1 Business Communication Podcast, not just covering what our specialties are, but what's happening around the world.
And we're on Threads as well. Search at Business Communicator. We're on all the platforms. You can find us. Yeah, you've got 2 girls, young girls. Are you going to go take them to see the Barbie movie?
I am
with
not.
Margot Robbie and Ryan. Who was it? Ryan Gosling?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
I think so. I'm not going to go see it. I'm probably going to wait till it comes out at home, only because the rating is a little bit higher than my kids understand. We're still at the PG level for the oldest one, but the PG-13, a little more than I want to explain to them with the inside jokes. So as a moviegoer, I enjoyed the parents' conversations with it or inside jokes, but I don't necessarily want to explain a lot of those things to my kids at this time. But my household, both girls, we are a very much Barbie household. I think we have 2 Barbie homes upstairs, and I don't know how many Barbies, some with haircuts, some without, lots of pink, lots of, unless you're wondering, rainbow is a color in their world. What's your favorite color? Rainbow. Okay. And so I do think it's really interesting the Mattel collab that they did with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On our backdoor channels, there was a big thing showing, hey, this is the Barbie movie, and how Mattel's leaned into all the other stuff that kind of comes from it. And Barbie pink is the new color, and they ran out of pink at Sherwin-Williams, I think, because of it. I'm really intrigued to see how it does in the movie theaters. But as a business communications professional, I think that if you're looking for the right way to do collaborations or to do a product launch or to do a communications launch in general, is go wide, especially if the movie house is going to pay for all your marketing and not the toy maker.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're everywhere right now. I mean, I can't stop scrolling on social media and not see some sort of post talking about the film. I did see actually a business slide that was talking about investments. And again, this is not investment advice, but they say that for Mattel, their share price usually peaks around the holidays, because that's when a lot of the Barbies, I guess, come out or they're released. And you can see, like, just via Google SEO, the spike that usually happens around the holiday season for that search. And the increase in their share price actually correlates with the search. But now you're seeing this film come out, so you're starting to see a spike because of the film, and then that's leading traffic to Mattel's website. The movie will probably be in theaters for what, 2 months maybe, and then it'll be released on DVD on demand right around the holiday season. And so you're going to have that like continued spike the next 6 months. And so yeah, it's a really interesting collaboration. And there's so many interesting things about the film. It's Margot Robbie, obviously the lead actor in the film. She's been in a lot of big time roles, Oscar nominated, incredibly talented actor. And it's directed by a female, it's produced by a female, it's an all female crew. So I think there's just a lot of hype and excitement around this film. And yeah, it's going to be interesting just to see what the feedback is. And again, the marketing side of it has been fascinating, because it's not like your traditional ads that you're going to see everywhere on TV. It's the small collaborations with TikTok influencers. There's a influencer out in Los Angeles. I can't remember the guy's name, but you've probably seen it. He plays he plays the saxophone, but he's got like a traffic cone attached to the saxophone, and so it gives this like really loud bass noise. And he'll go into like shops and restaurants and start playing it. And some people are obviously like, "This isn't too loud. This is insane." But he did a bit this week in California when it was clearly a marketing push with Mattel and Barbie. It wasn't listed as an ad, but I'm 95% sure it was. He goes into like a coffee shop in LA, starts playing his normal music, and then a cop walks in and is like, "What are you doing? You're doing it all wrong." And then he pulls out his saxophone and they start playing "I'm a Barbie Girl in My Barbie World," the song from the 90s. And of course, they show the video of like everyone really enjoying it in the at a coffee shop. But like stuff like that's viral marketing, and it costs nothing to do, and it gets in front of millions of people just like that.
Well, and I'm going to be on the same side you are, as whether they say it's paid promotion or not. There's under the table, behind the scenes deals going on all the
Right.
way through. I do think it's going to be interesting, because in the middle of the Oppenheimer launch last night, Matt Damon and a couple of the actors got up and walked out because the strike
They were
started.
forced to. Yeah.
Yeah, by their SAG card. So that's going to take away some of the marketing for their press junkets that producers or movie houses have primarily used. Of, go talk to this reporter, go talk to that reporter, go here, make this appearance, go, hey, there's a new Barbie thing opening up on Times Square, go make an appearance there. That's not in their playbook anymore. So I think it's going to be real interesting to see a lot more of those smaller viral marketing efforts. And while you say free, I don't think they're free, only because you are paying for.
It's not free, but it's if you give an
It's
influencer
cheaper.
if you give an influencer $20,000, that's better. That's cheaper than putting out digital ads or putting out television ads or things like that. But what you mentioned, I think, really is fascinating, the Oppenheimer angle, because obviously these are two of the massive blockbuster films of the summer, and then also Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible, I think, had their premiere in Paris or Dubai a few weeks ago. But I believe Oppenheimer or Barbie, I can't remember which one. One of them actually moved their premiere date up a day because they knew that the strike was coming, and they knew that if they wanted to have this premiere, they had to do it soon, and they couldn't afford to wait a day because, as you mentioned, the strike happened. And for those that aren't familiar, Hollywood writers went on strike. Probably about a month ish ago.
Well, a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, and then the actors went on strike Thursday on June 13th, and it's the first time they've been on strike since, I think, the 1980s, and it's the first time both have been on strike at the same time since the 1960s,
Mm-hmm.
in which Ronald Reagan was actually the president of, I guess, the union, maybe. So it's really interesting to see how it impacts not only the marketing side but also content creation for the rest of the year, because who knows how long the strike's gonna last. There's only so much content that these studios have in the hopper to distribute on Netflix, to distribute on network TV. I mean, is this an opportunity for YouTubers to really start elevating their platform and start working with brands? I know Mr. Beast in the past has talked about wanting to work with Netflix. I mean, is this an opportunity to, for those creators that have their own teams, have their own staffs, to start working with these studios?
I'm thinking on the business side of it is if I run a B2C company or a B2B company and I'm needing to film an ad or an internal marketing piece, how do I go about doing that? Where can I film? Where can't I film? Who can write? Who can't write? Who can perform in it? And I know, you try to use internal talent as much as possible, so you're not worried about SAG cards, but some of them do, some actors make a living by filming business training manuals, for lack of a better statement.
Yeah.
So something that if you're a business communicator and you do internal comms, something you might have to start looking out for is, how do you find talent to act in your training manuals?
I mean, the ideal scenario is obviously you have a talented employee that you can put on in front of camera, but it's not always the case.
You do crisis comms. The ideal scenario is to have a really good CEO who can get on camera at a moment's notice and talk off the whim.
But there are always those videos that you that we share during like crisis training of like, this CEO was not prepared because of this, and this, and I don't know. But Yeah, being on camera is different. I think I might have told the story on the podcast before, but when I was working at BP, we sponsored the MS Society's BPMS 150, and we were looking for a series of videos that we were doing. We were telling like the volunteer story, and there was a woman that worked with us at BP. She was so energetic, so enthusiastic whenever you met her in person. And then when you turn on the lights and you turn on the camera, she just like froze. And it was so weird because, we're not used to seeing her in that personality before, but she was intimidated, even though it was just the same people she normally interacts with. It was just the lights, the camera, it changes everything. So we actually kind of played a trick on her. We turned off the lights, said we turned off the camera, and we were like, hey, we're just going to do a practice one right now. And the camera was rolling, audio was rolling, and it was perfect. And once she got over the fear that this was actually recording, she was great. And so yeah, it's a real thing.
I'm not gonna lie that when you get in front of a camera with the light on, the temperature rises 10 to 15 degrees, if not 25. And that was back when
Yeah,
I was doing it with a real light. Nowadays with LEDs, I still say the temperature rises 15, 20 degrees. So if it's 100
feels like
degrees
it.
outside, it's gonna be 125 degrees is what you're gonna feel like you're talking
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
And those are even for seasoned pros who have to take it to that. Hey. Um,
Well, yeah, but let us know what you think. I mean, is there any cool like viral marketing hacks or anything that you've seen with kind of the writer strike, the actor strike, any of the production coming up? Let us know. Hit us up on social at Biz Communicator or via email as well. But this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we've got some really exciting interviews and announcements coming to you in the upcoming weeks. Um, let's just say we hope you're thirsty. Can't really go into more details yet, but just know that there's something exciting coming along and some great conversations that we've got on the docket. And I think maybe even our first in person uh, conversation. But Thomas, to kind of wrap up the show this week, had a conversation with a recent graduate today from Auburn University, and we had actually connected via Reddit. He was posting on the public relations subforum and had some questions about roles in Houston. And I was like, hey, former IBC Houston president here, happy to answer any questions. Kind of gave some of my initial feedback and was like, hey, if you want me to put you in contact with anyone, reach out on LinkedIn. Reached out last night or this morning and we spoke on the phone. Incredibly, incredibly sharp kid. But it just kind of got me to thinking like, what resources were impactful for you when you had just finished school or you were just getting your start in your communications, marketing, data science career? What resources were out there for you? What made an impact? And I guess if you could go back and tell 22-year-old Thomas, what was going on, what would you share?
be friends with Tom on MySpace. Not really. It was still the beginning of it all, of the social media. So a lot of what I do back then, I do more of. Granted, I went to school 4 hours away from a major city. Lubbock is a big city, but there's not a real thriving marketing advertising companies there except for the university. And I'm sure the same could be said about Waco, is you're either heading to Austin, you're heading to Dallas, Fort Worth, or
Yeah.
Houston to really get plugged in. Where Lubbock's actually closer to Denver than Austin, in fact. But more in-person networking, and then pushing the envelope, not just networking with communications people, not just networking with agencies, because I think that was also right around the time when like Publicis and all of them were starting to buy up a lot of the agencies. You had your Ketchums and your Edelmans, and your Publicis were the big ones, and a handful of other big ones. I know I'm leaving out some, and I'm sorry, all you agency listeners, that they're there. And yeah, Pierpont was always around, but it was a Houston-based one. It was not a global one that you heard about for the most part. And networking in person. So and then truly forming those bonds and keeping the conversation alive. And
Yeah.
so this is honestly me reaching out to my mentors, friends. I'm sorry if I haven't contacted you in a while. I will send you text messages and emails, and they might actually be work related versus just dumb, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think some advice that I would give is networking. I think is incredibly important. Phil Morabito spoke about that. I think on episode 3 of season 1 of the podcast.
Was
The
it 3 or
network.
1? It
He
was one of
wasn't
the
the
first
first
one.
guest. Yeah, it was episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, it was early.
But he spoke about the power of your network, and I couldn't agree more. But I think if you are reaching out to people, which I think you should do if you're a young college person, reach out to people and companies that you admire, that you want to work for, that have positions open. Talk to the people that work there, ask them questions. Go to networking events where you can, but try to add value, to those conversations. Don't just go say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. What can you do for me?" That's not going to fly. Like, you need to ask the right questions, develop a connection, show value. I mean, that's critical. I mean, it's gotta be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Or go in with a true thirst for knowledge, not, "Hey, I need this." No, I wanna learn about what you do
Exactly.
or how you got to where you are. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's not just for new professionals. It's also for people our
Oh,
age
yeah,
or even
100%.
older, CEOs. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and ask, "Hey, I'm seeing that you're doing really awesome in this. What kind of pointers and tips can you give to me?" Because I'm probably gonna reach out to them and tell people saying, "Hey, how'd you do that? I don't work in a competitive industry against you." And everybody will give 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, this, grad that I spoke with, I mean, I got that right away, like, because I've spoken with a lot of interns, college grads, students in college, and, like, right away, he seemed like a seasoned vet. I mean, just I told him, like, "Just keep on doing what you're doing." Gave him some names. I was like, "Reach out to these people, hopefully they can help out." But I think back to individual people that helped me. I mean, the first one was, well, really 2 people that I worked with at Baylor, Heath Nielsen, who was my boss, and then, Chris Yandel as well, who I mentioned on the podcast before. Both of them were, incredibly valuable in helping me, continue the journey that I wanted in sports. And then when I moved to Houston, there's a guy named Matt Malatesta. He's the founder of Vite Magazine, which is like the Sports Illustrated of high school sports, as we called it. He was incredibly helpful in introducing me to people in the high school sports world, the broadcasting world. And then John Slavny was incredibly helpful. He was my first boss at BP. He was the guy that took a chance on me and, gave me an opportunity to grow. And it's funny because I left that interview with John the first time. I was like, there's no way he's going to hire me. I couldn't get a read on the guy. And I told him that about a year later when we were on a work trip. I was like, yeah, John, I was like, I couldn't get a read on you. I was like, you'd be really good at poker. And he's like, really? He's like, I knew I was going to hire you right away. I was like, well, why did you tell me?
That would have saved me some stress.
Yeah, but it's really interesting. And then of course, there's so many other incredibly awesome people. Just to name a few people like Brett, Jason, Kelly, Clint, Allison, my current colleagues, at TC Energy. So I don't know. Listen to people and make valuable and meaningful connections, and continue to grow as an individual.
And you never know when they're going to come back. We talk about college, and when I worked for the Vice Chancellor News and Publication, Cindy Rugeley, she was a great person. Got my first press release back, and it was bleeding from the client. Bleeding. And the client was like an internal department at the university. And she's like, well, everybody likes to write different. And I was like,
that's something. Oh man, that's something that John got me on, because I think I'm a good writer. And when I was in college, like, I won writing awards, not just against like college kids, but like against actual professionals, like professional journalists. I won sports writing awards. So I was like, oh man, I'm a big shot. I know how to write. I'm good at this. I remember the first internal story that I wrote at BP, like there was so much red on the paper. And John was like, hey, it's not bad. He was like, these are just ways that we can make better. And you know, that has been fun to learn too from writers that are way better than me, and to be able to learn their techniques. And I think it's really helped me grow as a writer. And writing styles change too over time. I mean, it used to be everyone wanted 2,000 words, and now we've got the Axios smart brevity model of 300 words or less. I mean, it changes, but the core of it is still there. And I think writing is incredibly important. Like, if you can write, you're going places. And so many people, I hate to say it, don't know how to write.
and I like to say that I'm an average writer. That's probably one of the reasons why I got out of the public relations business.
I would attest to that.
Yeah, I can get my message across. I can do what it is, but I try to be a chameleon and write in whatever my clients' client, company's tone of voices. But other people that kind of, Kurt Langford, who was my boss at the Alumni Association and now runs the Alumni Association because I also did internships there. But then Phil Morbido, when I first moved to Houston, he was like the first guy who sat down and said, if you're going to consult, this is what you need to do, and this is where you need to go, and everything along those lines. And so those people I hold near and dear. And I was talking to another guy who was a boss of mine from about 2 years ago, just today. And it's interesting at how the full circle comes around. And you hit the nail on the head, Clint. He's also one of my old mentors. So
yeah, I think one other thing that I would add to you is like, don't be afraid to take criticism. I know that's easier said than done. I think early on I was like really concerned with that, and if I did get criticized, I would be like, oh my gosh, like I'd get defensive and be frustrated. I'm not saying I showed all these outwardly emotions, but I think you need to be able to take criticism. Like if you're doing a bad job, like I've told people, like if I'm sucking, tell me. Like we'll pivot, we'll switch, we'll do something different. Because you want to be able to correct that behavior. So be open to criticism, be open to feedback. I think that's an ongoing process, though.
Yeah, and remember that not criticism, constructive criticism is good.
Yeah,
100% criticism,
or
toxic
like
criticism.
observations. How can we problem solve? How can we get things better?
Yeah. No. So you heard it here on the Business Communicator. I'm an average writer. I think I'm above average on communication style because the others outweigh it, but writing is not my strong suit, and I know this. But yeah, mentorship, reach out, look for good stuff, find things that are doing good. So I'm gonna end probably on this because we said this is a short episode of always try to find things that are best in class and look for it. I know Austin and I, because I'm also a past president of IABC Houston, and Austin was a new person coming up, and we were talking about the communications world. And I said that I want to make sure that people who are coming through IABC are the best communicators, because companies need to stop trying to hire, I'm looking for the best communicator in this super niche little thing. Just because you're the best of the bad does not mean you're good.
Yeah, can I go on a little rant real quick?
Yes, go.
There's a company, I'm not going to name it, but I had a friend that was doing contract work with them, and he is an incredibly talented writer. And the role for the contract work that he was doing was for a writer. And they had posted for a full-time job for a writer. And there was just a small section in the job description which said they wanted somebody familiar with like SEO and marketing. As a journalist who has to promote his own brand, like he's familiar with it. Like you might not use the same platforms. And because of that, the hiring manager got it in their mind that, and this is me saying this, not my friend, because this is my opinion of the situation. The hiring manager got in their mind that they wanted a marketer for the role, and that was the most important thing. And it's like, I think sometimes you have to give people a chance. Don't go strictly by what the resume says. Like, what are you getting from the person? Because I look at my own career. Like John Slavny gave me a chance. I, had a sports background, and he hired me to work internal communications at a major oil company. Like, if there was anyone else hiring, might not have given me a chance. But sometimes you got to take a chance on people and give them a chance and to succeed. And they're gonna prove you right or wrong. But
And 10 to 15 years ago, or 10 years ago, 5 years ago, SEO is vastly different than it is today. But what I'm getting at is, right out of school, right out of grad school, when I started doing statistics, I was at a hospital, and I was responsible for patient throughput, customer satisfaction, and billing. So yeah, vastly different. But one day we were having trouble with patients leaving against medical advice because the line was too long or here and there. I literally, and I had to do a little bit of negotiating with my boss, said, I'm going to, and I picked up the phone and I called the owner of Taco Bell, a couple Taco Bell franchises. And my boss is like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to go hang out with him. I'm going to look in the store because I want to see how they get customers through that line as fast as humanly possible. Because at the time, fast food was the gold standard on drive-through, was the gold standard on, you place the order, you wait, you get your food, you're out the door. And so I told her, I'm like, trust me, 90% of the stuff I'm going to learn today is not going to be applicable to us. But if I can get one or two tidbits on how to speed up our process and or communicate better with our customers, then it's a win for a day. And the guy for Taco Bell was like, let's do this. And I was like, all right. And that's where we learned that patients in the hospital really want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Hey, we're leaving because we're told to go sit in this chair and wait 3 hours.
Yeah, we had a conversation a few years ago with the former vice president of the Houston Texans. Gosh, what was it? Jamie? Why am I?
Jamie
Jamie
Roots.
Roots. Yeah, and he's since passed away. But
Yep.
he had a comment that some of his best inspiration came from Major League Soccer and some of these other franchises. And he said his motto was like, "Rip it off and do it better." And it doesn't have to be in your industry specifically, right? Like Thomas said, if he sees a non-competitor talking about something, he'll reach out, pick their brain, like do that. Like seek inspiration outside of your specific field. Um, if you work in energy, look to see what other industries, sectors are doing for their marketing and communications. If you work in healthcare, look to see what other sectors are doing. Because at the end of the day, you're storytelling. You're just doing it for a different industry. So I don't know. That's my little takeaway, but fun conversation. Maybe we'll be able to do it over a happy hour and some drinks.
Well,
coming up soon.
We did promise that we're going to do happy hour episodes after
little
our
teaser.
Taylor Swift.
A little teaser for some of our listeners.
Yes.
Thomas, it's been fun. It's been a shorter episode of the Business Communicators, and of course, we want to thank all of our listeners for joining us. We've got some fun episodes coming up for you in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that. Of course, you can follow our work. Just search @BizCommunicator on all the social media platforms. Of course, visit our website, thebusinesscommunicators.com. But on behalf of my co-host this week, Thomas Bain, my name's Austin Staton. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.
You've been listening to the Business Communicators. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review.